This is the story of a man who seemed to have everything: fame, fortune, fans, and freedom. Yet deep inside, he was searching, yearning, for something the world couldn't offer. This is the story of Yusuf Islam, once known as Cat Stevens, a soul that wandered through the lights of stardom, only to find peace in the shadow of humility. Stephen Demetre Giorgio was born in 1948, right in the heart of London. His father was a Greek Cypriot who ran a restaurant, and his mother was a Swedish woman with a love for art and culture. Stephen grew up in a home where cultures blended, where East met West, where faith was more background than belief. From a very young age, Stephen showed a special love for music. While other children played outside, he would sit for hours, listening to the piano his uncle had gifted. At 8, he wrote his first melody. By 15, he was performing in local clubs. And by 18, he had taken the name Cat Stevens, believing it sounded sleek, catchy, and memorable. By the late 1960s, he was a household name. His voice was soulful, his lyrics poetic, and his melodies unforgettable. Songs like Moonshadow, Morning Has Broken, and Wild World weren't just hits, they were anthems of a generation. Fans adored him, the music world praised him, and the money poured in. But amidst the applause and glittering lights, Cat Stevens felt something hollow inside. In 1969, his life took a dramatic turn. He was diagnosed with tuberculosis and a collapsed lung. He was just 21 years old. For months, he was confined to a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with thoughts he had never allowed to surface. Lying there, weakened and alone, he began to think deeply. What was the purpose of life? What comes after death? Why do people suffer? And why was he, with all his fame and fortune, so deeply unhappy? During this time, he explored various spiritual paths. He read about Buddhism and meditated. He studied astrology, numerology, and even dabbled in tarot readings. But none of it brought peace. It all felt like fleeting comfort, momentary answers to deep, eternal questions. He recovered physically, but his heart remained restless. Fame began to feel like a prison. Every concert, every interview, every photo shoot reminded him of how far he was from what truly mattered. In 1976, while staying at a luxurious home in Malibu, California, Stevens decided to swim in the ocean behind the property. The waves were calm, at first, but before he knew it, a strong current pulled him far from shore. Panic set in. He was gasping, struggling, drowning. In that moment of desperation, he cried out, "God, if you save me, I will work for you." And just like that, a powerful wave pushed him back to shore. He survived, but something inside had shifted forever. Not long after, his brother David returned from a trip to Jerusalem. As a gift, he handed Stephen a copy of the English translation of the Quran. At first, Stephen was cautious. Islam, in his mind, was foreign, distant, even intimidating. But out of curiosity, he opened the book. What he read astonished him. The Quran wasn't just a religious text. It was alive, full of clarity, strength, and purpose. It spoke directly to the soul. Verses like, "Do they not reflect in their own selves? We did not create the heavens and the earth, and all that is between them without purpose. Indeed, in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest." Each line felt like it was written just for him. For the first time, something made sense. He kept reading. He read about the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all. He was amazed to learn that Islam honored them all. He learned that the core message of Islam was simple: worship one God, and live a life of righteousness, compassion, and humility. His world turned upside down. The Quran answered questions that had haunted him for years. It gave him a framework for life, death, and everything in between. But accepting Islam wasn't an overnight decision. He wrestled with doubts. He wondered how his fans would react. What about his career, his friends, his identity? In 1977, after months of study, prayer, and reflection, he walked into the London Central Mosque. Quietly, he uttered the words that would change his life forever. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. In that moment, Cat Stevens ceased to exist. Yusuf Islam was born. The world was shocked. Media outlets exploded with headlines. Why would a global superstar walk away from everything? Why embrace a religion so misunderstood by the West? But Yusuf didn't care. For the first time in his life, he felt peace. Real peace. Not the temporary high of applause or record sales, but the deep tranquility that comes from knowing you're walking the path of truth. He stepped away from music. He sold his guitars. He turned down million-dollar offers. Instead, he focused on learning his new faith. He studied Arabic, memorized Quranic verses, and immersed himself in Islamic teachings. He got married. He had children. He opened Islamic schools in the UK, ensuring that future generations would grow up with both faith and knowledge. He launched charity efforts, supported orphans, provided aid in crisis zones, and became a voice for the voiceless. Yusuf didn't just become a Muslim. He became a servant of humanity. Years later, after much reflection and consultation, he returned to music. But this time, it was different. His music was now a tool for spreading love, wisdom, and spirituality. He released albums like Another Cup and Roadsing, blending his artistic gift with his spiritual journey. People who once criticized him began to respect him. Young Muslims around the world saw him as a role model, someone who held tightly to his faith without letting go of his creativity. Today, Yusuf Islam continues to inspire millions. He is not just a former pop star. He is a father, a teacher, a philanthropist, and a man who found truth in a world full of illusions. His journey is a reminder that true success lies not in the eyes of people, but in the eyes of the Creator. It's a story of searching, suffering, awakening, and surrender. A story of letting go of the world to gain the hereafter. A story that proves that no matter how far you've wandered, the road back to God is always open. This is the story of Yusuf Islam, a voice that once echoed across stadiums, now whispers verses of peace. A man who had everything and gave it all up to find everything that really matters.